What is up, guys? We are back with another video, and today we are checking out this massive case right here. This is the Inwin 925. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the Inwin 925 is probably one of the largest cases that we reviewed all of 2020. I'll actually put the full dimensions sort of like right here so you guys can see. And the funny thing is that this case is actually the little brother to the Inwin 928. The 928, which we first saw at CES 2019, was designed for Intel's Xeon 14x14 motherboards that had like dual power supply support. I'll have a link to that video below if you guys want to check that out. But of course, people wanted a more mainstream case that they could use for normal builds where you didn't need two power supplies and massive motherboards. So here we have the 928. The case itself sort of has this, I guess I would kind of call it an industrial look. We basically have two layers, an inner layer and an outer layer. We'll start with the outer layer, and it's made up of a single piece of aluminum that's actually bent to give you, your top, your front, and your bottom. By bending it, you're able to get those, pretty cool curves that you see at the front of the case and all of the different lines and everything like that. With most cases, you have that front bezel, you get that square look. This gives you something a little bit different. At the front of the case, you have that nice brushed aluminum look, which I think looks awesome. Right in the center, you have an Inwin logo, and this will light up with RGB lighting. It uses a 3-pin connector, so it is addressable. And then down on the right-hand side, we have all of our buttons and connections. So you have a large power button, 2 indication LEDs, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, your audio connections, and a single USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port. It is good to see Type-C. It is the Gen 2, which is really nice. And Inwin was actually one of the first companies to start putting Type-C on their cases. Both side panels of the case are made of tempered glass. Of course, it is very thick tempered glass, and the panels are extremely big, and you basically can see everything inside of your case. And again, they're on both sides, so you have to do some pretty decent cable management on the back so people can't see it. And these panels are held into place by 4 large bolts that are easily removable. The bolts give it sort of like that, again, as I said, industrial look. But I do like the design with this sort of like plastic on the edges here. That just means that when you remove the panel, you don't actually have to touch the glass, so you don't get all of those smudge marks or fingerprints all over the glass itself. Now, if we look at the side panel, we can see openings kind of all around it. This allows for air to easily get in and out of the case, but in no way is this a high airflow case. Moving around to the back of the case, we have room to install 3 120mm fans, and we did install fans back there. Actually, this case ships with no fans whatsoever. So all the fans that you see installed were supplied by Inwin, but you'll have to buy those extra on top of the cost of the case. So we have room for 3 120mm fans in the back. And the entire back of the case is removable, and it needs to be because this back panel actually blocks all of your connections from your motherboard as well as your graphics card. Now, there's enough room that you can route your cables, and they do actually have a large opening towards the bottom to kind of route all your cables out. But every time that you need to connect anything, you have to remove this back panel. Getting inside the case is pretty easy. You just remove those 4 bolts, as I said, and simply pull the side panel off. Now, once inside, we can see that internal structure of the case, and this internal structure is made out of steel. We have a sort of kind of standard 2-compartment design, with the top compartment, housing our motherboard and graphics card, and then we have a full-length power supply cover, and the bottom will house your power supply as well as some extra storage. As we look at the main compartment of the case, it is very big, and you actually have room for motherboards all the way up to extended ATX and you have 8 expansion slots. So this is considered a full tower case. Long graphics cards are no problem at all either, and you have plenty of cable routing holes. When it comes to cooling in the main compartment of the case, you have room for 3 120mm fans at the front, as well as 3 120mm fans at the top. Now, all of these fans, of course, none of them come with the case, but if you do plan to install fans, it is pretty easy because both the top and front have cooling brackets that are easily removable from the case. They don't take that long to take out, and then you can easily mount all of your fans. Now, I did notice that there's really no sort of cable routing built into these cooling brackets. And if you're installing something like we did, like RGB fans, you're gonna have to run all of the cables either to one end or another of the cooling bracket. It just makes for a lot of mess and just makes things a little bit harder. But I do like the fact that we do have removable brackets. It just makes installation so much easier. Moving around to the back side of the case, you can see my cable management isn't all that great, but Inwin does provide quite a lot of cable tie down points, and you do get zip ties as well as a few Velcro ties that do come with this case. Now, as far as storage, there are 4 removable trays on the back side of the motherboard tray. First, we have 2 that are currently in use with our 2 SSDs. So these support 2.5-inch SSDs only. And then there are 2 larger ones, and these support either a single 2.5-inch SSD or a single 3.5-inch normal size hard drive. Again, removable, so you can take them off, install your hard drive, and then easily, of course, put them right back on. At the bottom of the case, we have a hard drive cage. Inside this cage, we have 2 removable trays, and each tray supports either a single 2.5-inch SSD or a full-size 3.5-inch hard drive. Moving over, we have our power supply. In this case, will support pretty much the longest power supplies out there, and you can actually remove the entire hard drive cage itself to make room for the longest power supplies. We did go ahead and run a few tests on this case. Now keep in mind, this case ships with no fans, but our testing is done with the 9 fans that we did install in this case. Our idle is taken at the Windows 10 desktop, and then our load is taken running the AIDA64 system stability test. So here are the temperatures as well as noise levels. So when it's all said and done, there's a lot to like about the Inwin 925, but also there are some things that I wish they would have done better. Now, talking about what I really like, I mean, it's a massive case. We don't see many massive cases these days, so it's great to see one here. Being so big, you have tons of room for cooling. We went over all of the cooling options inside this case. You have room for up to extended ATX motherboards, long graphics cards, huge power supplies, everything that you want, up to 6 hard drives as well, so you can build an insanely crazy system. You also have just the materials. We talked about that, solid piece of aluminum that's bent and gives you those awesome curves. We have the 2 massive tempered glass side panels, and you have all that there. And being so big, it's very easy to build in. We really didn't run into that many issues when it came to building. So overall, like I said, it is a pretty good case, but the biggest thing I think it comes down to is price. This case is $500. That is a lot. I get the price with the materials and that single piece of aluminum and what you can do with this, but one, it doesn't come with any fans. All of these 9 fans that we installed, Inwin sent us, so that's gonna be extra on top of that $500 with whatever cooling option you kind of want to go to there. Also, there's no like rubber fill-ins for any of the cable routing holes, so you kind of are left with these holes in the case, which get even worse because you have the rear window, so you can kind of just see through the case. And in some spots, especially where like we installed our 2 SSDs, there's no way to route those cables differently. They're going to be hanging right in front of that opening. So it would have been nice to see that there as well. And then again, with RGB fans like we have here, especially on the top and the front removable cooling brackets, there's no place to really route cables. So you have to route them either up or down, and it just makes a mess. It would have been a lot easier to have some type of hole or something like that to route all of these cables. And then finally, one of the things I really do not like about this case is this back removable panel. Anytime you want to plug in anything, whether it's a keyboard, a mouse, network cable, your display cables, anything, you need to switch something, you have to remove this entire panel. And that just gets annoying, especially when you have, again, RGB fans back here, and we all know how finicky those 3-pin connectors are. You take this off and you put it back on, and then you realize, oh, 2 of my fans aren't connected. It would have been nice to just have access to our motherboard and our graphics card without this panel that we have to take off every time, basically. But beyond that, I mean, honestly, I still like this case. It is a beast. You're not gonna find many cases like this out there. That's kind of what Inwin does. It is an expensive case, and there are a lot of options that give you kind of the same thing as far as, space and cooling options at lower prices. Some around the same prices. I believe the Corsair, what is that? The 1000D is the same price. So it's all about what you want. You can build a really badass system in this case, but $500 is a lot of money for a case as well. And again, as I said, there are plenty of other options. Now, I will have a link below to our full written review on this case. I will also have a link below where you can go ahead and pick this up. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up. And if you enjoy our tech content, go ahead and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video.